Welcome, everybody. Another big old crowd in the auditorium this week. That's a nice thing to see. Well, thank you for coming to Suzette's Talk, which this month isn't really going to be Suzette's Talk. But it's in the spirit of Suzette's Talk. So each month I try to hold this space to bring a topic to you that I think will be of kind of nitty-gritty interest to the everyday life of the residents. There has been a lot of changes being talked about in assisted living. Some of them are just starting, some of them are coming into the future. And so I thought this would be a great Suzette's Talk. I have special guest presenters today. And so Ben Stevens, our executive director, is going to do some talking. Tom, are you going to talk too, or are you just here? You're going to talk too. Good. Tom Ficklin's here, and Luke Childs, our new healthcare administrator, also here. So all three of them are here, and I'm not sure who's going to say what exactly, but I'm not going to talk other than to introduce them and say thank you.
Oh, is it time for me to hijack the meeting?
Now it's time for you to hijack.
All right. It's now Ben's talk. Happy afternoon, everybody. It's good to see you all for an in-depth conversation about assisted living. And so just by being here today, Suzette has put all of your names on the assisted living wait list. Yeah, just kidding. They were on there already. But on a serious note, you all moved into a continuing care retirement community, and so there's a good chance that y'all are going to use these services someday, which I'm imagining is why you're here. So we're going to talk about a few things today. We've kind of done some staff introductions. Luke, do you mind standing up again? Luke is on his welcome tour. So Luke Childs is our new healthcare administrator. You want to say a couple things about yourself?
Yeah. Hey, everyone. Luke Childs. Can you hear me okay? Luke Childs, happy to be here. It's hard to believe it's going on my fourth week of being here already. A lot of you, nobody's ran me off yet, so that's good. But a lot of you I've met already and have had the opportunity to get to know, and a lot of you I have not. So I look forward to getting to know you a little bit better. But happy to be here. So,
thanks, Luke. Okay, so we're going to cover an overview of the assisted living unit in the expansion, and then we're going to talk about something that's new that we've been working on and are about to roll out, which is service levels in our existing assisted living. And then we're going to talk about renovating our existing assisted living. So if you've been in some meetings over the last few months, we've been sprinkling some bits about the service levels and the renovation, just letting y'all know that those are things that we're working on. We are going to cover those in depth a little bit more today. I will also say that we are not broadcasting this. We are recording it and we'll replay it, but we will be having a very similar version of this presentation next Tuesday, specifically for assisted living residents and their families. So we weren't able to get those as close as we'd like, but it's coming up. Okay, so we'll start with the expansion assisted living unit, which is on the second and third floor of one of the wings in the expansion and has 35 one-bedroom assisted living units in it. So this is a view of the south courtyard. The assisted living floors would be right here. And so half of them would look over the south courtyard and half look out towards Rose Street and some of the trees that are out that way. I think that there's some really great opportunities for programming in the future. We will have programs. There's a little event space right here, a raised sort of amphitheater where we can have bands and an event lawn. So on assisted living on the third floor, there's a balcony that's outdoors that overlooks all that stuff. So our assisted living residents will have some great views of anything that's going on in there. This is an overhead rendering of the second floor of the assisted living unit. And the second and third floor are very similar. You can see on the left side, let's see if this works here. Okay. There we go. In this space is just kind of a wide open, soft seating area. It has a few tables, so there's just some nice lounging space in between some of the units. This middle area has most of the common space. On the second floor, it has dining, and then above this area, on the third floor, it has activities programming space. And then right here, there's some staff work area to support that section. Here's the third floor. Again, you can see soft seating area right here. You could theoretically do some activities in there, but it's just a nice space outside of people's rooms to congregate and do certain things. And then right here, like I mentioned before, there's a balcony that overlooks that south courtyard, and then program space right here. I think on the second floor, it's either the second or the third floor, there's what we're calling a family room down at the end of the hall, which could be used for meetings with families, like a care plan meeting, or just our staff getting together with family, or it could be reserved for residents to use with their families if they wanted to get together in that space. So that is an overhead of the 2 floors. Here's a couple of pictures inside those units. So the one on the left here is like if you're walking into the unit, you can see there's a small kitchenette on the left side. It doesn't have a refrigerator in the picture here, but it will. Has a microwave and has some storage space there, so residents could have a coffee maker, toaster, those sorts of things, and feel a little bit more like home. We would not put full ranges in those units, obviously, but it gives residents the ability to prepare some perhaps small meals or some snacks or things like that. And then it extends out into the space and has a living room space. You can't see very well around the corner there, but there's a decent amount of room back there. And then there's the bedroom, which is in the back. It's on the right side, and a walk-in closet with plenty of space to maneuver a walker in and get what you needed and come back out of that closet. This is the bathroom. It has a nice walk-in shower and plenty of room, as you can see, to maneuver assisted devices around inside of those bathrooms, and plenty of grab bars as well. So really nice assisted living units coming, and we will talk a little bit more about the existing assisted living unit in just a little bit here and how those two fit together. But I'm going to pass off to Tom, and Tom's going to start talking about the work we've been doing at levels.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Okay, so we're transitioning to a levels of care or service levels approach in assisted living. The goal here is really to keep healthcare costs down, over time. Should you need healthcare services down the road, we are looking to this model for longer assisted living stays. So the idea is that we would diminish skilled nursing costs, which are substantially more, as many of you know.
That'd be cost to the resident.
Cost to the resident, yes. Thank you. Good clarification. So we went out into the market and gathered some really good data from competitors. I think it's safe to say most of our competitors are using some type of levels or tiered model. And so we feel like this is a huge benefit and have decided to make the transition at this time. There are, it seems like a lot of competitors are offering various packages, and some of which were frankly pretty complex. So we really had an interest in keeping this simple, and landed at a place where we have 3 service levels. And how this looks in terms of admission into assisted living is we use an assessment tool pre-admission. Just to ensure that we can meet your needs in assisted living. And then we will repeat that assessment twice annually. And of course, if there's a significant change in condition, we would do the assessment then as well. The plan right now is to transition our existing AL residents to this new model by June 1st. And so we'll conduct assessments in May, and then we'll make the move to the service models officially on June 1st.
Tom, let me ask you a couple of questions.
Yeah.
This concept might seem a little foreign to a resident or somebody that hasn't had any interaction with assisted living. What's the difference between a service level and a package? I know on the slide it said we compared those two things. What's the difference between those two?
Yeah, so what we notice with various offerings out in the community is that some people may have 4 or 5 levels, and also in addition to that, a package for things like incontinence or and then other like a la carte type services, and so we wanted to keep this pretty simple. And the levels of care, just so everyone knows, the assessment is really, it's looking at those areas of activities of daily living like bathing, grooming, dressing, toileting, and assessing your ability in those areas and how much assistance you would require to complete task of that, within each area. And there's a significant range there. Historically, we've had one level of care. This, will be increasing our capabilities in assisted living, and it'll allow us to meet your needs, more over time, if you will.
Right. So up until recently, there's one flat rate for all services in assisted living, and frankly, the amount of assistance that we have provided in assisted living has been a little bit lower than what a lot of assisted livings out in the marketplace would be willing to do. Now, we're part of a continuum of care, so we still meet our residents' needs, but the idea with introducing service levels is coupled with our clinical training to be able to provide more care to residents in assisted living than what we have been doing in the past few years.
Yeah.
Right.
That's right.
Yeah. I think it's important to also just mention to y'all that this is not a foreign concept to introduce these sorts of levels. I'd say it's actually been the industry standard to have tiered service levels. So as you need more help, you can get that, but it just comes with an increased cost.
Yeah.
Now, you might be wondering, well, how is this saving me money? It sounds like you're adding levels that cost more. Well, in the past, we might have moved you, if you needed more help, we might have gone ahead and moved you to skilled nursing to get that help at a dramatically higher cost. So this introduces very simple levels that will not cost you as much as going to skilled nursing, and allows you to stay in the environment at that point that you're familiar with and want to be in.
Yeah, if you look at the disparity between level 3, for Glen Eyre residents, which is at 8,402, to the where you'd fall in at skilled nursing would be, we're talking closer to $12,000 a month. So it's a significant difference over time. So.
We can't expand it right here, but y'all are going to get a letter in the next week or two that has all this information in it.
Any questions about the service levels? Other questions?
Actually, I wonder if maybe we
Do
should
wanna
just
wait till the end?
let's hold questions, and then I've have imagined we're going to have a fairly substantial Q&A at the end of this program. So thank you, Tom, for that. Hang on to
thank
those
you.
questions about service levels, and then we'll come back and do a Q&A for all of these topics. Okay, so renovation. We've been, like I said before, we've been dropping some breadcrumbs, letting you all know that this is something that we are doing some due diligence on. So coming back to you all with some more detailed information. First question is why are we doing this at all? Well, there's a few reasons. One is that we've heard for quite a while that residents want one-bedroom units. It's a big ask to go from a cottage or a two-bedroom unit all the way down to a studio. And so we've started to develop one-bedroom assisted living units in the expansion. And we continue to hear with our existing assisted living unit, folks have some apprehension about moving into smaller units. So that's one of the reasons. The other is that renovation gives us some better access to natural light and views in our current assisted living space. It doesn't maximize access to natural light from common areas. This change would also give us some expanded dining capabilities with back-of-house equipment. So we'll get into some of that as we look at overhead floor plans. The other thing is, and this is really one of the primary reasons why we're doing a lot of due diligence on this now, is this is sort of a once in a 30-year opportunity for us to be able to move our assisted living residents out of the building and do substantial renovation instead of doing an occupied renovation inside of a healthcare unit, which is not fun for anybody. I know we've done that in the past with some of our healthcare households, but this is a really great opportunity for us to do this sort of thing. So just a little bit about the process that we've gone through and how that leads to where we are right now. From a construction timeline on the left, we start by engaging the services of an architect. That happens to be Steel Group Architect. That's the architect we've been working with on the expansion. They also did the renovation work inside of the 4000 building here, as well as a structural engineer to look at our drawings and be able to tell us structurally what we can actually do inside of the building. So they set out doing their work, looking over our drawings and updating things, and then they talked to us about what we're looking for. So on the right side, the concept design list here, we talked about a whole range of things, including memory care. You know, should we consider turning this space into a memory care unit? We decided against doing that for a few reasons. We considered having different size units. You know, do we still need to have a few studio apartments along with the one bedrooms? Should we even put a two bedroom in there? I think what we arrived at is to try to be as consistent as possible between the expansion and what we have here to make choices simple for folks when they need assisted living. So what we've arrived at is all one bedroom units. And then we've also sort of compiled and considered feedback that we've received from residents over the years and from tours that we've had with families and integrated that feedback. And then spent a lot of time talking with a broad range of staff, the staff that work in assisted living and are engaging with the residents to get feedback about what functionality is more important than others. So that all gets considered by the architect as they're starting conceptual designs. So they bring some ideas back and give us an opportunity to give some feedback. That leads to, you know, we're doing a financial pro forma as well with our finance team to assess the financial viability of the project. The board for Glenair and for Brightspire are a part of reviewing and considering the project and its viability. And then the architect continues on to design drawings, which is another level, another layer of detail, which helps us get better construction estimates. So, where does that leave us right now? So we are and have board approval to continue to the next step of this process, which is construction drawings. So that's the next layer of detail. We also can go out with those to get more formal bids to really understand what the cost of the project is. Now, I will say that we've wrestled with that because this is a pretty expensive project. It is basically gutting the whole assisted living building, and it's reducing our unit count from 40 units in that building down to 24. So that is less units. That's less units for us to sell. Now, we're also adding 35 in the expansion, and we still have 9 assisted living units in East House. So we're not going from 40 down to 25 to try to support the whole community, but it's spending millions of dollars to have less units, and frankly reduces our revenue, which is something we have to consider. But we look out at all of you, our customers, who will use these products, and what you expect as far as service is concerned in our assisted living unit. And we receive routine feedback from residents about the assisted living product that we have. And so as we've talked with different resident committees and with the board about this project, there's some head scratching from a business perspective as far as the financial piece is concerned. But all of those conversations tend to lead back to, this is something that we have to do to be competitive and viable in the future and meet the expectations of our residents. So that's where we're at right now. We are coming to you all to share more information about this project with you so that you get an opportunity to look at it and give us some feedback about it. It's not a done deal at this point. We will go back to the board probably at some point this summer with updated information. But if we're going to do it, the time to do it is coming up really quickly. So this is important information for y'all to have and hear. Here's a comparison of the units. So the one on the left, lost it. The one on the left is the current assisted living unit, which is about 334 square feet. And these were, by the way, 25 years ago when they were built. These were really nice assisted living units. These were competitive in the marketplace. And I will tell you often that the most important thing with assisted living is not the unit that you live in. It is the people that are providing care in that assisted living area. And we do a really good job at that. Y'all care about the unit, though. The unit on the right is the proposed layout for one-bedroom units. So you can see it has a small kitchenette as you walk in, has a living space, a bedroom, and a similar bathroom layout to what is in the expansion units. This project reorients almost the entire building. So it will involve us redoing almost the entire exterior. It puts in newer, larger windows to bring in more natural light into the unit. It is a substantial project, but will be very nice. This is going to be really hard for y'all to see. I wish I could have blown it up a little bit more. The diagram on the left is the current layout. And what's important to focus on here is the common space right here. So you can see this big room on the inside of the building is the dining room. So there are a couple of skylights in there, but there's no external views in the dining room. And then there's kind of a small lounge space here that's behind a door. This is all staff space, nursing support space. You have Tom, now Luke's office right there. And then the multi-purpose room, which y'all know gets used a lot and has a beautiful courtyard or a patio that's covered and looks over the Glen, which is an award-winning outdoor architectural design space. But you can't see it from inside the multi-purpose room. Now we've got these really nice stained glass windows on these doors that if we go through with the project, we'll have to find new homes for and highlight somewhere else inside the buildings. But not a lot of access to natural light. The layout over here on the right brings the dining space out here and creates all these windows that looks out into this natural area outside. And then over here, the multi-purpose room gets reoriented a little bit, and a sort of a living room space gets created that will have access out to that covered patio, which creates a nice space for residents to go and be outside. This is the lower level of assisted living, and right now, when you get off the elevator, you kind of look right into a nursing station. You don't see any windows at all. There's a chaplain office down here, which is getting moved up to I-40. But you don't see a whole lot when you get off the elevator. You can come around and go into the lounge, and there's some windows. This design over here reorients all that and opens up that space right as soon as you get off the elevator. You're in a living room area with views to the outside and has this nice little screened-in porch out here as well. It still has the nurse work area here that has good visibility to common spaces, but it really opens things up quite a bit. So that is the overview of the space. Now, how could this go right now? So what we are hoping for is to get through the next step with construction drawings and estimates and be in a position to move forward with this project and seek board approval and get it. There are some considerations there. The economy right now is really, really turbulent, in case y'all didn't know that. So there's just a lot of focus from a management level and a board level on making sure that we're not putting ourselves in a position that is unnecessarily stressful from a financial position. But it could move forward. And if it moves forward, we would be working with our assisted living residents and families talking about moving over to the expansion assisted living unit as soon as we can, after we get access to the expansion. That frees up this space and gives us the ability to move as quickly as we can. Occupied renovations cost more and take longer and aren't fun to be a part of if you're a resident living in those spaces. So we've gotten in our initial construction estimates an estimated time frame of about a year for them to complete that project. The other option is that we, for one reason or another, most likely financial, decide not to move forward right now and consider some sort of an occupied renovation in the future. But that would be much more difficult to do down the road. I just want to note again at the bottom here, this is obvious. So this is like someone coming to you and saying, I've got great news for you. We're going to switch out all the floors in your house for free. Your initial reaction is, yes, that sounds great. Except you've got to move out of your house for a while and move all your furniture around, and it's just a lot of work to get done. So on the one hand, there's some really great things about this, but specifically for our assisted living residents, this is going to come with a little bit of unsettling with getting moved, and we would give those residents the ability to decide if they wanted to move back to the existing assisted living unit when it's renovated after it's done, assuming they were still appropriate to do that at the time. So there's a lot of moving pieces with this project. It's really exciting, but there's just a lot of moving pieces with it. So wanted to make sure y'all had that information. We've talked about the expansion assisted living unit, 35 units there. We talked about some of the layouts. We've talked about service levels and introduction of service levels, and just covered a potential renovation of our existing assisted living unit. Now it's your turn to ask questions. Who wants to go first?
Would these new units accommodate 2 people?
Yes. Yes. So they could accommodate 2 people. One of the things that we've talked about is there's an obvious desire by many couples to move through the continuum together. More couples are living together longer than ever before. There's a little bit of a wrinkle, though. I'm not saying that we won't do it or won't allow it, but having a well spouse, which just means that one spouse needs assisted living and the other one doesn't, but they want to be there together. The well spouse could get in a little bit of a jam if their loved one ends up needing skilled nursing, and then they are in assisted living, and the independent living unit that they vacated is not there anymore. And so that well spouse could be sort of, they could be, not that they couldn't move back to independent living, but it wouldn't happen right away. So they could get stuck for a little bit.
Could you please make a more detailed description into what the levels of care are, what they include, each level? Does it include just medication? Does it include bathing, et cetera?
So there is an assessment. So it's not, and that's one of the primary differences between service levels and packages. And some places have both. So the company that I used to work for had both service levels and packages. So you might be at a service level 2 with a bathing and grooming package, and nobody knew what the heck that meant. So we wanted to try to make it as straightforward as possible by saying there is an assessment tool that you go through, and it has for each activity of daily living, like dressing, for instance. It describes a variety of assistance within dressing, from being totally independent to needing total assistance with that. And depending on the selections that you make, it's going to give a numeric score. So the cumulative score from all those activities of daily living is going to dictate which level you're in. So it's not as simple as to say, if you need help with medication, you're in service level 1. You could need a variety of help and be in service level 1, and somebody else could need the same help in the same areas, but more help in those areas and be in a service level 2. So I don't know if that's helpful or not.
With those levels of service, does that mean that you're going to have all that's needed to serve everybody, no matter what floor they live on? And is a person going to have to move every time the level of service changes?
No, so those of you who have been at Glen Eyre for a long time might remember there was a medical assisted living and a residential assisted living. So there was MAL and RAL. and they were on different floors. So if you needed more help, if you're an assisted living resident and needed more help, you might need to move to a different floor in assisted living. That would not be the case here. You would stay in the unit that you're in and just start receiving more assistance at a different service level.
I wanted to ask about long-term care insurance. Is this affected by the levels that you're going to now that approach health care with the long-term care? Would that apply in these new levels, or is it just health care?
I am the last person you should get any long-term care insurance advice from, but I think the boilerplate answer is that every long-term care insurance policy is different, and so we would need to sit down with you and look at your policy and make an assessment about that. I don't know if, Suzette, if you want to add anything.
And he's correct. Everybody's policy is different, and so we have to look at your declarations page. I'm happy to do that with you. I think this will help you collect on your long-term care insurance, actually, if you have assisted living coverage, which most people do. Because most long-term care insurances, either you have to show that you have significant cognitive impairment to trigger it, or you have to show that you need help with at least 2 activities of daily living. And that's bathing, dressing, toileting. It is not, I need help with my medications. I need to not have to walk very far to meals, you know? So in our old assisted living, if you became where you needed help with toileting, we didn't offer that in assisted living. We moved you to skilled, okay? So now we're saying we are willing, you'll be at higher level, but we are willing to provide more ADL help, and that should help you actually collect. Does that make sense to people?
I think Lynn had a question.
What's the difference between discounted rate and regular rate?
The discounted rate is our contract resident rate. So most all of you have a residency agreement at Glen Eyre. You moved into independent living and are going through the levels of care. That would be the discounted rate. So the contract resident rate. The regular rate would be for folks who direct admit from outside of Glen Eyre into healthcare. Well, it's an umbrella. Yep.
But are the rooms in the new renovation and in the expansion and what you're planning here the same size, the 1 bedroom?
They're about 30 square feet different, so they're very similar. The ones in the expansion are a little deeper and are narrower, and the ones here are a little wider. But ultimately, we talked about that quite a bit, and ultimately felt like the drive for you all deciding which assisted living you might want to live in is going to probably depend more on if you're in a 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 building, you're probably going to want to go to the assisted living here because that's the area that you're more familiar with. And if you're in the expansion, you might want to go into the assisted living in the expansion. So we felt like creating the units as similar as possible in terms of square footage and amenities is going to be helpful for folks to make decisions down the road.
So are you saying, Ben, that we're going to have a choice about what assisted living we're going to move to?
Well, yes. Yeah, once they're both open. So obviously if we were doing the renovation project and you needed assisted living, you wouldn't be able to move in here. But once we're done and open, we'd be open to, Suzette or somebody else is having a conversation with you about assisted living, providing that there's open spaces in the unit that you are more interested in. Certainly, you decide which side you want to go to.
So it won't depend on how badly we need assisted living, or it won't depend on a financial difference?
Nope. The rates should be the same or very, very close to each other. And the service levels should be the same. Should be the same structure, just some of our units are in the expansion building and some are here. I will say there's just one caveat. There are 2 units in the expansion assisted living building that are larger than the other. They're still 1-bedrooms, but that was sort of a mid-construction change. There was some columns in those units, so there are 2 that ended up being quite a bit larger than the others, and so those ones will be more expensive than the other ones.
Right now, there seems to be a number of people that are sort of hanging on in independent living. Are the service levels going to be such that they could be applied to us and force us to move to assisted living?
No. If you're asking whether I could apply a service level to an independent living resident, the answer is no. Dell's on his way.
Thank you. I've got some of my questions have been answered here. What happens to our residents who do have significant memory issues if we do not have a memory unit?
So people have had memory issues for a long, long time, right? Cognitive decline isn't a new thing. There's more older people now than there used to be. So there's more people with dementia, but folks have had Alzheimer's and dementia for a long time. And there's seems to have been sort of 2 trains of thought, if I had to boil it down. In the senior living industry, one of those camps feels like there's a real case to be made for a secured memory care unit. And then the other group of folks feel like as a senior living operators and people that have a lot of experience with memory loss and cognitive decline, we can train our staff, and the most dignified approach is to keep residents sort of commingled with each other and provide really good quality care and support. I tend to think both have good arguments, and I think there's a place for both, frankly. One of the things, so when we were going through the concept design stage, our architects kind of went through a lot of our healthcare area and just updated some information that they had. And we think that there's another potential opportunity to create memory care on campus in the future. It would just be the next project for us to do. And we don't have commitment to doing that at this point, but we seem to have a desire to renovate things. So I think we'll get to it. We'll find ourselves bored a couple of years from now.
Okay, my next question is, with the expansion, we're going to have a lot more people. If indeed I needed to go to assisted living and the assisted living units were full, what are you going to do with me?
So the answer to that question is it depends. It depends on what you need and what specific supports you need. Less help you need, it might look like a bridge support situation where maybe you're bringing in some private duty caregiving to fill the gap until an assisted living unit opens up. More help that you need, and perhaps the longer a perceived wait you might have. We might work out a plan with you and your loved one to have you in an assisted living off-site and be supporting you financially with that. And that has happened in the past at Glen Eyre. We are certainly not in that situation right now. We have plenty of availability in assisted living, but those things change. They go in cycles. we've talked a lot about that and whether doing this renovation would potentially put us in a situation where we don't have availability for residents that need assisted living. We didn't devise or plan for this service level thing because of that, but it does create some opportunities for us to manage occupancy in healthcare. So for instance, we could, if we needed to, if we needed more skilled nursing, we could try to titrate things a little bit and provide more help in assisted living, and vice versa. But we feel okay about the arrangement that we've presented today. If we were really concerned about running out of assisted living units, we would have scrapped this a long time ago. We wouldn't have done it at all.
My next question was staff input, family input, and input from patients. At what level do you see that happening? Are they going to have a lot of input from people that have been working in, and have a real feel for the facility, or a lot of that come to the, or does a lot of that come through the architectures, et cetera?
No, so when the architect starts the conceptual design process, they come and talk to me about, what I think about the project, which, who cares about that? But they ask me about who they should talk to. And so they spent a few days out here interviewing our staff and talking about what sort of things we've run into in the past, what works well in the unit that we have now, and what do we wish we could change. Our staff are very attuned to what the residents and their families say about the unit when they're touring and when they live there. We receive a lot of feedback all the time about the services and the amenities and those sorts of those. And so that's a pretty involved process to go through all of that. We will receive more feedback. So part of those interviews were frontline staff in assisted living, and we'll receive more feedback from you all and from our assisted living residents as we're putting up these plans and presenting them and getting your feedback. And so at the end of the program today, obviously, we'll be up here to talk to you, and we'll switch the slide back to the floor plans as needed so y'all can look through it and ask questions.
My last question. We are a Presbyterian-based home, and we can be supportive certainly through our attitudes and through supporting those that are doing the work up front. It would be really nice if we would, as a community, be putting this in prayer and lifting this project up for not only those of you who are doing it, but for those that will be working on the projects. Thanks, Ben.
Thank you. Lynn, did you still have a question? Okay, all right. This is a lot of stuff, a lot of information.
Ben, I just wanted to say I have two sisters in assisted living in Pennsylvania, and each of them are living in assisted living units like you're proposing, and they're lovely.
Yeah.
They're just really nice.
Yeah, so it's interesting, right? You could drive across Cary, and go into the airport. You'd probably pass 6 assisted living facilities on the way, maybe more. In January we got some notice from Cary Living magazine about Glen Eyre being one of the best senior living facilities in the Triangle, and then also from the NNO about our healthcare center. those buildings open up and they're beautiful and they're new, but what really matters is the people. So it's the residents that live there, it's their families that are a big part of their lives, and it's the staff that are dedicated to that place that really matter. Now, if we can complement that with a really pretty updated living accommodations, that's the cherry on top, but it doesn't matter as much as the other stuff. So. Other questions? General feelings about the assisted living renovation? Does it seem like a good thing? Okay. All right. Well, thank you. If there's no other public questions, we will be up here for private questions. So thank you for making the time. Private questions. Thank you, everybody.